Rise up, people. It's time's up, people. You can talk all you want, but it won't change a thing. I wanna know what you do.
So Nate, thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Jody. It's hilarious. Thank you for having me.
So everyone, this is actually my cousin by marriage. He's married to my favorite cousin. I always said that, but don't tell anybody else. Well, so tell me about when you came back.
There's a mandatory 10 days of deprocessing. They might call it something else, but that's basically what you're doing. You have to go through mandatory physical checks and medical checks, and they don't make it mandatory to do a psychological check, which I wish they did. That's the only one. That's the only one that is voluntary, and they make it so hard to do. First of all, you have this whole thing of macho-ness that's going on in the first place. Right. So you have that against you. Now you throw all the people that you work with, see on a daily basis. So you have like 1,000 plus 1,500, something like that in the battalion, something of that nature.
Okay.
So all these guys in the same room, it was a hangar. So it's big, wide open space. You throw them all in there. And well, this is how the base I was at did it. They may do it differently somewhere else, but this is my experience.
Okay.
So we're all in the same room. We all got the same shots all at the same time. Well, not all at the same time. You can't do everybody, but a bunch at the same time, like 30 at the same time. It's an assembly line. So you're doing all these things all at the same time. And now the one thing that is optional of going to talk to somebody about your experiences, basically, is you have this whole side of the room that is medical, physical, blah, blah, blah. Now you have this big, wide open area, and then these white curtain sheets, and you go behind the curtains to go to talk to somebody. So you have this big ocean of empty space. Now you have all these 1,500 dudes, mostly dudes, over here that are going to watch you walk across that ocean to get there. Hell no. Some people did, but you know what? I knew I needed to talk to somebody, but would I? No, because I knew what happened in my unit. You would never live it down. Even though I was getting out, even though in just a few weeks I was getting out, I still wouldn't do it. So anyway, I do get out. I ended up joining the reserves for 1 year because I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. Very, very lax. Mm-hmm. Put it that way. 2 weekends a month or 1 weekend a month. I don't know, something like that. She had moved back to North Carolina while I was deployed because she didn't have anybody there. Plus, being a newborn mother, you know how that is.
Yeah.
And so she needed some support. So I was like, I'm not going to stop you. Started a mortgage. In Huntersville, and when I came back to Fort Campbell, even though it was going to be just a few months, she couldn't stay away, so sold that house or some, I don't know. It's very, very confusing time. Sold that house, moved back to Tennessee, Kentucky, and stayed there for a few months. It wasn't weeks, it was months. That's right. It was for a few months, temporary, and then moved back to North Carolina again. And now we're in my mother-in-law's house again, and, feeling like I'm at ground zero again, so to speak, because, this is where I started before the military, so, don't have a job most days, sitting there by myself in the house, just watching TV all day, watching videos all day, trying to get my mind away from whatever. And they had a full liquor cabinet, and I'd never been a drinker. I didn't even drink the near beers in Iraq that you could have, which was 0.05% 5% alcohol. And this is the self-medicating that a lot of us do. And to me, this was the worst part of of uh, our marriage.
Sure.
Because really coming back from there, even though we wrote all the time, anytime we could talk, I would do it. We would do it. It was just not the same as being with your significant other, and realizing, and we both realized this in our own way, that we had grown apart. Like I knew we had to have a hard conversation. I said, I would never do this, but it has crossed my mind, the D word. And I'm like, guys, right now, don't even go there, because as soon as I said that word, shut off. And from everything, she shut off. Her mind was like devastated. And we both come from broken families. Her parents, my parents, and neither of us agree with. We don't believe in divorce. We don't believe in it. And I tried to soften it, but it's just, you just can't use that word. You just can't, in my opinion. And
I agree.
so it took a while for us to get this conversation going, and we went to counseling and all this other stuff, but it just took time, and building trust and over time, and figuring each other out again. And so I wouldn't wish that on anybody. To go on to the next, how did I get into policing? I started feeling they were giving me all sorts of ideas. Hey, I was in FedEx, and you should, we'd get you a truck. You can start your own route. And maybe I should have done that. I don't know. But why don't you sign up for the FBI? Blah blah blah. So I started filling out the FBI packet. Just, I didn't know what to do. And I start filling it out. I get to like question 40 something, and it says, are you willing to give up holidays and weekends? I said, hell no, and I stopped.
That was what...
Then my brother-in-law, step-brother-in-law calls up one day and says, hey, and he worked for the police department. He says, why don't you put in with us? And I said, why not? First, it's a physical test, GRPAT or something like that. So I passed that, and they said, okay, on this date is the written exam. If you don't pass the written exam, they don't send you to the next step. Pass that, then they send you your lifetime paper packet, basically. That's not what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it.
Right.
But this is my life here. So every stone that can be turned, you're trying to figure it out. Every place you've ever lived, every ticket, every arrest, if you've had any. So you try to be as upfront as you can, and and then the polygraph, and then the interview. Then the academy was on for the next 6 months, and that was like college. That was basically like college with training on top of it. And it wasn't like basic training, because it was a little bit similar, because law enforcement is paramilitary. It's kind of, it's on the same lines, sort of. But you got to go home every night. Right. So we did that for a few months, and the whole time in the academy, everything is, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. Everything you do, you're dead. So what they're trying to do is to weed people out, same way the military does. So if this scares you, we don't want you. So the whole time in the academy, I'm like, do I even really know I want to do this? Is this something I really want to do? And they show you all these videos of officers actually dying. And is this scaring you? They don't say, is this scaring you? But, if it does, so, they're doing their own little mind games. Right. And So the whole time in the academy, I didn't even know if I really wanted to do this. The only thing I did know, and like I said before about being in the military and what a life this is I never ever dreamed of being in the military. I never ever dreamed of being law enforcement. You know, these are things that came my way. I mean, one thing that I do say that I've always been, it's been ingrained in me to always be honest. It's been one thing that I've always done in my life um, from the get-go was look out for the underdog. If there was an underdog, we played football or basketball, the games that I played growing up, the sports that I played growing up. The teams, like, how guys pick teams, they want the best. They want the best. I already knew I was good, but I had, I guess I want to say, a chip on my shoulder for the guy that was downcast. I was like, okay, you don't want him? I'm going to go be on that team and we're going to beat you. That was my whole thing. It's just like this guy, and I'm going to use him on every play. Guess what? He's going to score on you. So, that has been kind of my mentality of, just throughout life is the underdog's important. This person that you think is outcast, I'm going to use them to show you up. And so, I kind of take that aspect into a lot of things, or I have, over the years.
What I'm curious about is in the same way as when you left the military, and it was available but optional, but you know what I mean, and kind of set up in that way as you described to do the psychological evaluation. I'm wondering if, what were the opportunity? Was there a requirement for that when you were going into the police, going into the police force?
I'm sure there was a psych evaluation, linked with the polygraph in some way, shape, or form. Initially, but as you went on, it's all about training and everything is external. You're adding stuff to your repertoire. It wasn't ever focused on you as a person, and your mental health. Later on, just before I got out, and it might have even been because of me, I don't know if this is the case, because of the reason why I was getting out of the police department. They had psychologist was on staff just before I left. Had probably been on staff for that whole year, I think, that I was in that I was on a desk job before I got out.
And so, tell me about, like, what was the moment? I mean, I know you had described to me, and it really hit me hard, was kind of the moment when you realized that you couldn't do the that you wanted to leave the force.
Well, I think I have to take you back to my PTSD incident first.
Oh, okay.
Before that even happens, and maybe later on I'll read this little spot, but the whole time, and I want to say that this is a good segue for this little part, but basically I'll try to sum it up. And I think this goes for most people joining law enforcement. You join, I want to help people. That's why I'm doing this. It's good. We're gonna go help people. We have this optimism. That's what we have, this optimism that we're gonna change the world or whatever.
Yeah.
And the academy doesn't really tell you what it's going to be about, in my opinion. about what it's really going to be about, because every situation you're dead. So what, that can't be right, you know. And you know, and they have great training. They do. They have great training. And then you go sit with somebody and you do that for a while. Then all of a sudden you're by yourself. And I think it's too soon, in my experience. Now, other departments do it differently. You might be with a partner for over a year. Our department was not like that. It was a couple months, and then all of a sudden you're by yourself, making your own decisions, making mistakes, and having to be responsible for them. And you know, it's a big weight to carry. And like, the transition from military to policing was not as easy as some may think, because in the military, it's all about, this is the way I put it, it's not my people. These are, you know, I'm enforcing something on people that are not mine. I can relate to these people, because you know, and I did relate to those people in Iraq. But that's a different discussion. But when it came to our own people, I was like, I don't know if I can do this, you know, at first. You know, how can I, and I actually did have very strong doubts in the beginning when I was out there by myself. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I went to my sergeant and I was almost in tears. He was trying to encourage me. I eventually got past that part of doubting that I could do this. You know, I went immediately to third shift, and not a whole bunch of new people I didn't know. You know, and so we ended up building camaraderie after a while. But and I'll learn stuff from them, learning stuff that I didn't learn in the academy. Yeah, it's all well and good, but this is how we really do it, you know. And that's good in theory, you know, type of stuff.
Interesting.
You know, and this is where I really learned how to two things I learned, two major things that I took from policing. One is I've been an introvert most of my life. And so policing, you can't be an introvert.
Right.
You have to talk to a whole bunch of people. And you have to be able, they call it verbal judo, but you need to be able to talk your way out of a paper bag, you know? And so that was another thing I learned is to build rapport with people, you know, because we're all, like we've said in the beginning of this, we're all people. We do have a common ground, regardless of them wearing this stupid uniform. We can have a common ground. And so that is one thing that I do like about policing, or about my experience with policing, is my way of approaching people. And a lot of times I would be able to diffuse situations, and it takes longer to do that.
Yeah.
It takes time. People need time.
Yeah.
I've pulled people over fully intending to give. I never would pull somebody over unless I had a reason to give them a citation, at the very least. So you already had reasonable suspicion. I don't know if you're familiar with phrases like that, but if I pulled you over, I already had you. So I would not pull you over for no reason. But that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. So it's discretion. You have your discretion whether or not you do that. So a lot of it depends on the way that me and you have a conversation, basically. If I remember specifically pulling over this one guy early in the morning. If you're going with the flow of traffic, whatever, you know, a lot of people are like, whatever.
Right.
But now and you've seen this too, Massachusetts, everybody's going 80 miles an hour, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody, yeah, okay. You know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know that guy's the one. So
Well, that's
anyway.
just dangerous, guys.
Oh yeah, they're weaving in and out and
right.
Anyway. So I pulled this guy over for 16 plus. Shift was almost over. I was ready to go home anyway. But in some aspects and this is another part of it, of the philosophy of policing, not mine, but theirs. The departments, we don't count numbers. We're not counting statistics, although they do.
Mm.
And you don't have to get a quota. And they'll say all that up front, but in the background, there's like, you haven't made that many traffic stops this month.
Yeah, right.
You haven't given this, compared to this other person, you're low on citations, you're low on arrests, blah, blah, blah. All this stuff.
Yay, people aren't speeding very much.
They're tracking everything. No. They're tracking everything. You're in competition with your fellow officer. And they make it a competition. And that works for some people, but anyway, so that's just a little aside there. But anyway, this guy, I pulled him over and he's going with my criteria that I set for myself, that I'm only going to pull you over if you're going way over the speed limit. And that's the only ones I ever did. And he gives me the straightest, honest answer. My jaw dropped. And he's like, I was late dropping my kids off for school, and you know what? I was speeding, and I deserve it. And all this, I couldn't believe. I just could not believe this guy was being so straight with me, respectful, and everything I didn't expect. I was just like, thank you. You made my day. You're free to go, just slow down, and there's few and far in between, but those are the ones that I choose to remember. In law enforcement, you're meeting people for the very first time on the worst day of their lives, oftentimes, and no one wants to see you. Nobody. Doesn't matter if you're the nicest dude in the world, lady in the world, doesn't matter. No, I don't want to see law enforcement behind me in my mirror. Mm-hmm. No one wants to see that. So you're already losing. You're already in a losing situation. And the microscope is on you, not only from the public, but from your command staff. So you're getting it from both ends of trying to fit this perfect profile that you just can't live up to. I saw time and time again of officers getting in trouble for just not doing to the letter of some minuscule thing, possibly, but and then at the other end, some really unfortunate stuff they got into, something that they didn't create. They're trying to help, and the good intentions weren't good enough.
So can you give me like an example? I mean, obviously not any names, or maybe not so specific or something like that, but what's an example of like the type of situation, something that someone would get in trouble for unjustly?
Well, I won't use, I say a few in my book, and I was not wanting to go here, but I will use myself. One night, just out of roll call, so it's the beginning of the night, at 10 p.m. We just got a roll call. I just got in my car, got it all ready. You have to do this whole procedure of getting ready. And I'm heading down Harris Boulevard, and there's another officer just made a traffic stop on the other side of Harris Boulevard in the opposite direction I was going. And this is not uncommon, but and there's many reasons for this, but who knows? So he pulls over somebody, and just after he pulls over somebody else who knows what they were doing or what they're thinking or anything pulls in behind him. So just maybe a random person, maybe somebody that was traveling with that person, who knows? Maybe somebody out there to harm, just to, cause harm to that officer. Who knows? So you don't know. So he's calling for backup, a second car or something like that, because you don't know. This other person is pulled in behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just not a good situation. And so he calls for backup. And so I say in the radio that I'm going to be heading that way since I'm close. And I'm at a traffic light, at a red light. There's two middle lanes. I'm in the left middle lane, and there's two middle lanes, and I'm in the right middle lane, and there's another lane to my left. And it's a no U-turn, but I'm going to make a U-turn. And I'm just, I don't know what the word is for this, but as long as I put on I put on my lights and siren and start my video recording, legally, I can do this now, because I've done that. So I have to do all that first. So I'm letting everybody know around me that I'm about to do that. And then I do what everybody would do, look both ways, blah, 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 behind me, all the stuff anybody would do. So it's reasonable. So I'm doing that, but I waited for the green light to do it. I could have done it at any time, but I waited for green light to do it. And so I did, and I looked in all my mirrors, looked over my shoulder, or thought I did. But I'm also in a vehicle that has very poor visibility in the rear. So it's hard. There's lots of blind spots in the rear. So I put on all the lights and siren and make my signals and all this. And I start to go over, and all of a sudden, somebody goes by me on the left, knocks off my side mirror, they sideswipe me and knocks off the spotlight on the left side. And it was so quick that I was just like, did that just happen? And I'm looking over them. Those things are missing. And I'm like, yeah, it did. And that person there's a little median with some bushes on it. And they had just barely gone up on this median as I was going into that left lane with my lights and siren on. And the light had just turned green. So why are you going that fast in the first place? In my mind, timing it in your head. And maybe I say that fast. I was barely going anything, and they were probably going, the speed limit was 45. And so it seems very fast.
Right,
anyway,
right.
Then I already have my license siren on, so I just follow them, and they pull over to the side of the road. And it's a fine stop. So I get out. First thing I do is I ask them, are you okay? I'm okay too. We're both okay. All right, good. And then I had to tell my supervisor that I just got in a wreck. And whenever that happens, if you're involved yourself, another officer has to come take the report. You can't do it yourself.
Right. Makes sense.
So they come. I'm talking to this guy. It seems like he might be drunk as well. I can smell it. I can see red glossy eyes, slurred speech. He has an open bottle, cold, like a beer in a 12-pack in the back, but he had one that was open. I ain't drinking it. He had an AA Bible on his back seat. Anyway, he was a nice guy at first, and so we do what we gotta do, and the other officer decides, and he's Intoxilizer certified, which means you can run the breath test. And we ended up arresting that guy for DWI. All that aside, I get called into the sergeant's office sometime during the shift after we get this guy processed and all this stuff, after all that. And I get called in, and he asks, actually before that, he talks to me on the scene as well. And he's asking me questions as if I'm a suspect. And I felt like I felt in that time like, you're not talking to me like, where you're the way that the manner that he was talking to me was as if I was in the wrong the whole time. And I'm not saying I wasn't. Just the way that he approached it, just started put up my guard. In the office, he had there's only two things that you can do. He had a thing that basically said it's my I forget the wording it says, but it basically says it's your fault that this accident happened. And I have a choice to sign it or not sign it. I'm like, what is the point? What is the point to not sign it? I might as well just sign it, whatever. Not that I agree, but that you guys are going to do whatever you want to do anyway. Mm-hmm. So, I do disagree, but I'll go ahead and sign this thing. And anyway, I'm sure you can see it from both sides, but so that was my small taste of getting in trouble for something I didn't think should have happened. Normally, they send you to driver's training again, and I never got sent to driver's training. I said I saw dust got kicked up, and he's like, "Well, there's no dirt here or something like that." Doesn't mean I didn't see it. And when this guy went up on the meeting, there's no median. He couldn't have gone up on the meeting because of the bushes, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, he did. That's what I saw.
Right.
So he wasn't believing what I was saying, like as if I was lying. And so, and I'm sure some of that goes on somewhere, but I don't do that, and
well, I think it's interesting because I think that, like the way that you were talking before about, the guy wanted respect, you know what I mean? And kind of building rapport, and maybe sometimes it takes longer, but that, is a way to, diffuse the situation and things like this. These are all kind of like little pieces of what you've been saying. But to me, what that amounts to is it's the same either way. People want respect. And I feel like that seems to me to be like a situation where it was kind of flipped on its head, where you were on the other side and then you were you know what I mean? So then it was where someone didn't seem to be giving you respect. You know what I mean? So you understand that when you're interacting with the public, you need to treat them with respect. So when it's coming back at you where someone isn't treating you with respect, then you
most of the time,
then that's
not all the time, but a good amount of the time, you treat them like people because they're people. And I mean, I was laughing with people all the time. I was cracking jokes all the time. I felt comfortable around people, and when I didn't, there was this spidey sense, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you knew the people that it's an odd thing that you can tell when someone is meaning to cause you harm. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever felt that, but there was definitely those people out there too. Mm-hmm. I've felt it distinctly with several encounters, but that was preconceived. It's not that it was me. It's just that maybe their previous interaction has put a bad taste in their mouth, and now you're all this way. And in policing, they call it arbitrary profiling. And that was an absolute no-no.
Right.
You better not get caught doing that. As an officer, forget about the public. You will not do this. You can't say just because they live in this area, this is how they are.
Right.
This race is this way or whatever, this color of the skin, you all act this way. You can't do that.
See, I think, I work at a homeless shelter. I've been working at a homeless shelter it's been part of my family for a very long time, but it's, in the way that you're describing it, I think, a lot of times, I think that's the same way I feel about, people who are staying there. And sometimes people will be, like you said, when you're meeting somebody on the worst day of their life, right? Or, you know what I mean? You're meeting somebody when it's already a shitty situation. I think it's a big difference when there are people who assume certain things about people, even in their behavior too, sometimes, because they're in a bad situation, and I think you have to take that into consideration. A lot of times people don't, and people are bound to not be the friendliest when they think they're getting a ticket, or when they, something like that. So it really means a lot to maintain that rapport and that mutual respect. You know what I mean? It's a big thing.
Yeah, for sure.
It makes all the
And I've
difference.
been in the situation where I thought I had this. I thought I had the good rapport going. We're about, we've diffused it as far as I knew. And then, oh my goodness, something lights up, and now we're going the other way. And you can't, in policing, a lot of time, most of the time, it's reactive. And you don't really control the situation. You're just trying to you're trying to scale it down. It's always about diffusing. Hopefully just diffusing. I'd rather do that than all the paperwork the rest of it requires, and not just paperwork, but all the rest of it. But I've been on the other side where I've arrested somebody and somebody's thanked me for it. It's like, you were doing your job. This is what you were supposed to do, and you treated me with respect, and I respect that. And let's go, Officer Gould. I'm ready to go. I've had that interaction. I've had the interaction where I've arrested a dude, and now I'm meeting him again. It's like, I remember you treated me right, and I like you, Officer, and I arrested him yesterday, so it really counts. It really counts how we treat each other.
Yeah.
Even if you are mandated to arrest somebody, you can still treat them like a human being. And that's what I did when I could. I mean, I will also say I'm not perfect either. And I made my share of mistakes too. And I might have said the wrong things at times, and I know I did. We all do it. We all have our breaking point. We all have our things that set us off, and you can't deny that for every person.
So tell me about, because of course you ended up leaving policing. And so tell me about, when did you really start to notice the mental health issues?
Well, I've been dealing with depression, seasonal depression, I would call it, that just kept getting worse. And I just thought it was something that I had, maybe hereditary even. And, so with my experience in the military and probably mostly that, I just ignored it. And I said, oh, I would tell myself, like, it will go away in a few days. And when it got to be 2 weeks at a time or more, and the dread of going to work, as a law enforcement officer, I would, I remember specifically, when I had my PTSD incident the day of, I'd already been depressed for over 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. It says it more specifically in the book, but it's at least 2 weeks. And I was out of it for a day, feeling fine, and then the next, I was only out of it for 1 day, and then I went right back into it, and like all full blown depression. And that's all I thought it was. And I didn't know any of the rest of the stuff. And, just my own cross to bear. I felt alone. I didn't feel like I could tell anybody at the department, because I've already been guarded from them, because of that other situation I told you, and because of me seeing things happen to good intentioned officers, even them getting landed in jail sometimes, and the fear of that coming to get me eventually, and feeling like it's just around the corner, just the next thing I go to. So all this is building up, and the day of, I do I could do all the normal functions, as I would call it: bring the kids to school, make their lunches, kiss the wife goodbye. Now I'm alone. Worst time. So when I'm alone, and most people probably can relate to this, it's just me and my thoughts, and they become overwhelming. And so I'm trying to drown them out by watching TV, knowing that I have to go to work that day, dreading that, and can't keep my eyes off my watch. And every time, okay, it's almost time to go. Almost time to go. All right, it's time to go. Go take a shower real quick. Get up. I have already had my stuff laid out on the bed. Get out of the shower. I'm looking at all my gear, getting dressed, and the thought comes to me to harm myself. And I say, I have all the tools. I got everything I need right here to do it. It scares the living daylights out of me. And I've been to many suicide scenes at this point in my career. I've seen the family. I've seen the family's reaction, the why questions, I don't know, I can't talk to them anymore. All this stuff. I've been there with the people. And I said to myself, I'm like, I don't want this is literally what I said to myself. I don't want my family to find me. And I have to get out of here. I have to go. Threw on everything as quick as I could and got out of the house. And I have my uniform on at this point, all my gear. I start feeling this dry mouth. And I just can't quench it with any drinks or anything. Just this dry mouth is building up. And it's already started in me. This whole body shut down, basically. But I didn't know that was happening. But that it's already started. And this is, I don't know, noon. But I had training that day, so I had to go in early. And it was a check the box training. Although we did have to shoot our guns that day. And at the training, it wasn't like a qualification day. It was, like I said, just to check the box. So you had to mimic putting on as if you were shot in your arm, your non-dominant hand first, and you put a tourniquet on or something like that. So we did tourniquets first, both arms, and then we didn't have the tourniquet, but we fired with a non-dominant hand, and you couldn't use your other hand because it's out of the fight. It's something's happened to it. You couldn't use it. So you had to learn how to charge and replace your magazine just with one hand. And then you had to do it with your non-dominant hand too, and fire. So you didn't have to qualify. You just had to do it. So it's good training, but I knew there was something wrong. I couldn't even focus on when they were explaining the training. I wasn't focused. My mind was not there. It was like fuzzy. And, even during the training, my legs almost gave out and it wasn't hard. It was nothing hard.
Mm.
It was just to check the box thing. No physical stress at all. But it was more than I could take at the same time. And it didn't happen there. Thank goodness. And you also have to, after you fire your gun, before you go in service, you have to clean your gun and be ready. So you can't leave before you clean your gun. So I had to clean my gun, get in my car. I had a police car at this point, patrol vehicle, because I already left my personal car back at the office. And I get in the car, and I knew there was something wrong. I already knew there was something wrong, but even more wrong at this point. I start feeling tingling coming in my hands. I'm like, what is this? Okay, I'm not going to, normally I would sign on to be ready for service at this point because it's already time to start. It's already time to start my shift. So going from the academy back to the office, I don't know, 20 minutes. So I was like, okay, I just won't sign on yet. I'll just wait till this passes and then I'll sign on. So all the way back to the office, it's just building, and it's coming up my arms, this tingling. And I get to the office, I'm like, okay, I won't sign on yet. I'll just park. And I'll just wait for it to go away. Then I'll start. And this is happening faster than I'm talking about it. But everything, and I parked up against this little hill, so I didn't know I was starting to see tunnel vision because this was right in my face. And I probably had a fast heartbeat at this point. I wasn't paying attention to that. I just felt the tingling, and I also didn't know that I was sweating heavily. Just find all this stuff out later from other officers. But I knew there was something wrong and it wasn't going away. So I was like, okay, I need to call my sergeant. And by the time I decided to call my sergeant, I got on the phone. I had slurred speech. I didn't know I had that. And I told him what car I was in and what number was on it. And I got my doors open. Come help me.
Right.
So before I know it, whoever was in the building comes running out. They come in both sides of my car and take my seatbelt off and loosen my belt and get everything loosened and take my gun away. They don't know what's going on either, and call me an ambulance, and I didn't even know I was white knuckling the steering wheel. I was just sitting there like this, and all tense. I didn't know I was doing that. And apparently, and I don't know, I said this, and apparently one of the officers that was helping me out he says something that, probably anybody would say, but it's like it's like a no-brainer, he says something like, how do you feel? Or no, that is what he said. How do you feel? And I said, how the F do you think I feel? I yelled at him, and I don't even remember that.
Which, for those of you who are watching this, the word, the F word, or the tone is just absolutely, completely unlike Nate.
Yeah, it's totally. I don't even know I said that. And next thing I know, I'm in in the ambulance, and the hospital is like basically next door. We go over there and they check all my vitals. Everything's A-okay. You're good, you know. And I'm sitting here crying. I don't even know what I'm crying about. And just blubber and mess. And my officer buddy has my phone and calls my wife, and they call my pastor, and they show up and they're afraid. And well, he sits with me. He's cool about it. He sits with me and prays with me and stuff like this. And the doctor, you know, just an emergency doctor, you know, what do you think it was? And you know, all your vitals are good. And you know, and I don't know. First thing comes to my mind is, you know, these guys in Iraq that died, and you know, maybe it's about that. And they say, oh, you just probably have survivor's guilt, you know, just kind of shrugging it off. And then for so sorry about that. Just read a text that said he's brushing his teeth now. It's my turn to put them down. So you know, he's saying all this stuff, and like I said, I'm a blubbering mess. And next thing he says is, should I prescribe you 1 day off from work? And I'm like, can it be 2? You know, so he prescribes me 2 days, and they let me go. And you know, of course, they have to ask this question. This is another important part, which has to do with military and police. They ask you, you know, do you think of harming yourself? I didn't tell them that. I didn't tell them that. I left that part out because I know, and I've been there. I've seen what happens to people who say that. Because I have to take them to mental health, and it's a mandatory 10 days. And then they just kick you out. Well, I say kick you out the door. Then they just kick you out the door with some medicine, and it's a Band-Aid, and it's not real help. Right. But this is the process. And I'm like, I'm not going to mental health. You know, I don't feel like that's going to be helping me right now. I mean, I didn't know any better. I just knew I didn't want that the way that they do it. So I'd be sitting there waiting for another one of my coworkers, maybe, to transport me. Well, that's what it going on in my mind, because the officer always had to transport somebody. You're not arrested, but we're just putting these handcuffs on because for our safety and your safety. And then you take them off when you get there. And, you know, some is voluntary, but if you're at that point, it's not voluntary. It's involuntary commitment. And so I don't want to be involuntary commitment. I just want to go home, you know. And I go home, and, you know, I've scared the daylights out of my wife. Kids don't know what's going on. I lost myself in that time. You know, I didn't feel like a dad. I got my 2 days off. I'm having anxiety about anxiety. I can't function. The third day comes and I'm supposed to go back to work. I call in and I take the day off. And that started my 3 months of being out. And, you know, that was tough. I decided I'm going to go see who I got to see, do what I got to do to get better. And so I started to, first I went to my, I don't know, for lack of a better word, family doctor. And I didn't want to go to him. Exactly. I went to a different guy that I've never seen before because the way that he's, nothing bad against him, but he's another shrugger. he says, well, he often, and he did it with the kids all the time. Well, it could be this or it could be that. We could give it to him if you need it, if you want it, we can give it to you. But he doesn't really need that. It'll just take time. Just give him a little. It's always N-acetaminophen or Motrin. Just go back and forth between those. Blah blah blah. Eventually, we'll work out. Or we can still give you the medicine if you want it. I didn't want that guy. I wanted a new guy. So I went to see somebody else, and they asked me my family history, and so I tell them about my mother, who we all think is bipolar, and but she's never been diagnosed because she won't go for help. So that's just a thought. And what's he do? He prescribes me stuff for bipolar. Dude, I just saw you. And I never took it because who knows if this is right? You're just doing it. Just doing it. And so I'm like, I want a second opinion. And I've already had, here we go back. I've already had a really bad experience with the VA, Veterans Affairs, and said, I said, I'll never go back there. And that was years ago. And now I'm forced. I have to go. They didn't force me. I'm forcing myself. I have to go, and so I got involved in the mental health program there because I wanted to be better. For me, for my family, that's all. Everybody else can, whatever. I don't care about you anymore. That's not true, but at that point, it had to be about me. My family needs me. And so I went to them. I got involved in the group program at first. It was okay. We had to do some work, but not everybody did it, like paperwork and thought stuff. And they teach you all about, like you said in the other video, watch mindfulness and stuff like that. And it's all well and good, but it didn't really do me any good at that point. And especially in the group settings, I'm not saying this for every group, but the group I was in, a lot of them didn't share. And that's one thing that I see about, and nothing bad about group, but it's like the lowest amount of help. It's not it's like the entry level help, and a lot of people turn away from that. And so it was okay. And I got a doctor assigned to me, and I think we probably started some different medications. I gained some weight. I had some side effects and stuff like that. But and they're like offering to change medications, and this whole different route. But anyway, I ended up, after finishing that, and I also went to my own personal counselor. I started going to see a personal counselor as well, and and all this, and I did that on company time. All this was on company time, so that's something good that came out. The police department supported me, and so for 3 months I'm doing this. It was even longer than that, but I didn't start right away in those 3 months. It took some courage to do these steps, and I ended up getting a program. I wish I knew the name of it, but it was a I have to plug this computer in real quick. It's showing red. It was a one-on-one, specifically for PTSD program, and I would recommend it to anybody because it was so intense, but so good at the same time. It sounds crazy, but what we did every single session, we went to the worst trauma, which was my friends dying, you know, and I relived it every single time. I had to close my eyes and literally attempt to relive it. Every smell, every sound, every taste, every touch, and record it myself, and they recorded it. And then every single day as my assignment, I would have to listen to it.
Really?
And write about it, I think. And I have all those recordings. Man, it was intense for sure. Crying all the time. And having to listen to it all the time. But I don't want to say I got used to it, but it got out, you know. And that's like the biggest thing, is to talk about the trauma, is to express it, be heard, have somebody care about it. And, you know, it did wonders for me. And there were some other steps that they didn't ask you to take. There's steps that I made for myself. Like, one of these boys that died was like a son to me. And I avoided talking to his dad when we came back. And I wish I had. But I avoided it. That I don't know what I was afraid of. I've still never met him, but I did write a letter to them. I did send it to them. I sent it to all the addresses I could find. And that was important to me to do. It's important to me to talk about them in my book. And how his life mattered and matters. And, you know, to keep him alive, you know, in a way. And, you know, I was so afraid to talk to them. And because I feel like I failed, you know, feel like I failed your son. You know, I was his first line supervisor, you know, so here I am doing what I need to do to get help. And it was great help. It is great help. I would recommend it to anybody to do the intense psychotherapy. And it has a certain name, but that's what it is. And you basically live it. You relive it and relive it and relive it. It's tough. It's hard work. And, but I still would recommend it to anybody, you know, reliving all those emotions and because you need it. You need to feel it. You need to, I didn't have a chance to feel it. We just went from, you know, snap, 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 do the next thing. Mission to mission to mission to mission. And so, you know, and my reason for writing this book is for guys just like me. Tell them there's hope, there's healing. There's something after this. Best day of my life is when I didn't get fired, but you know, when I left the police department. Thank God.
Huh.
You know? And it's a blessing to me to be out of it. And God bless all the men and women that are still doing that. You know, it's crazy. I wouldn't. I don't know why somebody would do it nowadays. Not really. You know, with this state of America, you know. Anyway,
Well,
we weren't supposed to get into all the politics, but
I know. I'm trying to stop it because you know I'm going to have to say it would just lead to another 3 hours of conversation because we've been on this forever. Anyway, hold on. Let me not be. All right.
take all that off the video.
See, it's just nature's way of telling me that I shouldn't have put on makeup today. That's all it is. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, no, I think I don't know. At this point, I'm not even going to sum it up. How about we just say, where do people find your book?
Well, you can find it on Amazon, or you can find it through my own website at njgould, njgould.com. And there's an Amazon link, a Barnes & Noble, Indie, I think another one, whichever one you choose.
Yeah,
There's the soft cover, hardcover, and the ebook. But I haven't been doing it for months, but I will eventually come out with a audiobook.
Awesome. I know. That's what everybody does nowadays.
You have all options.
See, maybe if you do an audiobook, I'll actually get through the book. See,
Oh, yeah.
That'll be
Yeah,
I
I
don't have
advertised
literally
that
zero excuse why
I advertised that it will have all the emotions, but I've talked about it so often, recently, that at times it will get me too. At times it will get me too. Not as much as it used to. So it's a healing process for sure.
Yep.
Thank you, Jody.
Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Keep it on the up and up.
Yeah.
Plug.
All right, bye, y'all.